Welcome to WorkSpan TV. I'm Allison Avalos, Research Manager for WorldatWork.
And I'm Kerry, Chou, Senior Practice Leader for WorldatWork.
WorldatWork recently published the 40th Annual Salary Budget Survey, which focuses on the amount of money that companies are budgeting for pay increases. Kerry, to give us some context for our conversation today, can you start off by talking about the projections for 2014 for salary budget increases and salary structure adjustments?
Sure. For 2014, the projections are actually optimistic. We're looking at a 3.1% projected budget for 2014, keeping in mind that in the last 4 years we have not attained our projections. So organizations have been a little bit optimistic, and then when it actually came to delivering budgets, they came up a little bit short. So we'll have to see. 3.1% would be the first time in the last 5 years that increases have gone over 3%. On the salary structure side, we're looking at a 2.1% increase for 2014. And so like budgets, salary structures have seen over the past few years a slow but cautious increase. So we're seeing similar trajectories in both budgets and structures.
Based on the bigger picture that you've seen, do you think it's likely that this might be the year that we actually hit those projections, or do you anticipate next year's actual budgets to come in a little bit below that?
You know, my best guess based on what we've seen over the past few years in terms of behavior is most likely, I think we will get into the 3% range. That would be great news, something that we haven't done in several years. But I think that companies, from the data and what's going on economically, organizations will most likely continue to be cautious. And so it wouldn't surprise me if we came up again just a little short next year at only 3%.
And how about for variable pay? Does the picture look the same for bonuses and incentives for 2014?
Yes, the picture for bonuses and incentives looks quite similar. At least on the incentive side, we've seen very consistent payouts over the past several years. Even during the recessionary period, we saw non-exempt employees were getting about a 5% increase, then or 5% payout, and then moving into the exempt professional ranks about 10 to 12%, and then 35 to 40% for the officers and executives. We have seen a consistent payout in those ranges even during the recessionary period. What did change during the recession, however, was the fact that the percentage of employees receiving those amounts went down. So that's how companies kind of dealt with the recessionary period. On the bonus side, we are seeing quite an uptick in things such as retention bonuses, stay bonuses, project completion bonuses, those kinds of things. So I think there is some indication that organizations are becoming a little bit more cognizant of the slowly but improving job market situation and are having to pay a little bit more attention to their top performers.
One of the recurring themes that we've seen, not just in the salary budget survey for the last few years, but also in a lot of the research we've done, is paying for performance and differentiating. Are organizations truly differentiating their payouts, their base pay increases as well as variable pay for high performers? Do they actually earn more?
Studies that we've done, including data that's in the salary budget survey, indicate that top performers from a salary standpoint are receiving about 150% of the increase that average performers are. And we have been tracking this for many years. Some professionals or some organizations, I'm sure you've heard, have kind of complained that, well, with these small budgets now, we can't differentiate between performance. When in fact the research shows that even in 2008, that was the year before the recession, we had a 3.8% average merit budget, so very high, and about 145% difference between the top performer and the average performer in terms of an increase. The next year, the budget was only 2.2%, and if you'll recall, that was the lowest budget on record. And in fact, the difference between top performers and average performers was up a little bit to about 150%. So organizations are certainly capable of differentiating even with small budgets, and we hope they continue to do so. I would love to see organizations go beyond 150% and even get up to 200%, where a top performer is receiving twice what an average performer is receiving. On the variable pay side, you know, the data is a little bit more hard to come by in terms of are really top performers receiving the lion's shares of the bonus or incentive payouts. Now, certainly on the bonus side, those are individualized types of bonuses. So we would expect that top performers and key employees are going to be receiving those on kind of a one-off basis. When we move into the incentive plan, there's of course a wide range of incentive plan types. We have profit sharing, where pretty much, you know, every employee is receiving some slice of the pie, all the way to programs that focus both on corporate performance and individual performance. So we're obviously hopeful in those situations that those high performers, they're getting good marks and good ratings, and so a disproportionate amount of the bonus and incentive pool would go towards those performers.
You know, I'm curious, you mentioned the ratio between middle and high performers in terms of their base pay increases. Do you anticipate a shift in that ratio with a little bit larger budgets? Is it something where the ratio grows or shrinks based on the size of budget? Or is that 150 to 200% differentiation pretty common no matter what the size of the budget?
Well, the data bears out that it seems to be organizations have kind of landed into this 150% range. And as I mentioned before, whether we had a 3.8% budget, which was more historically what we used to see, and then the low 2.2% budget we saw in 2009, there was, even with that huge shift in the amount of money that they had to spend, we saw very similar differentiations. I think at some level we have organizations might be in a little bit of a rut. They've decided that you know, 50% markup, so to speak, in terms of increases is all that's necessary. But I would encourage organizations to be, you know, even more vigilant and more diligent in trying to really ascertain who are their top performers, their people moving the needle, and trying to shift more of the rewards towards those individuals.
You know, there might be an opportunity when you have a little bit larger budgets to talk about the size of the percentage increase, the difference between those two, but maybe when you're dealing with smaller budgets to talk about the ratio. So thank you for that, Kerry. For WorkSpan TV, I'm Allison Avalos.